Hi everybody. Yeah, welcome to another day in coding lessons. Python. We will be doing a lot of coding bat problems today. So what coding bat is that it's a website where we can actually learn how to code and basically practice problems. So in the notes and resources channel, I sent a link, and if you click on there, you can actually access all the problems that we are going to do today. So first off, before we start, I'm going to wait a little bit for all of you to get on. Um, yeah, so I hope everyone is having a good morning. Give me a second, please. Okay, guys, I'm assuming all of you are on the website that we just sent. I just sent. And so I'm going to actually hand it over to Elliot, who's going to go over some problems under the section string 1.
I guess we'll get started. I'm gonna share my screen. So we should all be here right now. String 1, hello name. Give it a string name, right? Return a greeting from the form hello Bob. So we're pretty much just with the variable name they give us, we're adding a hello, right? So how we do that is we're first gonna start with the return, right? And then we're gonna add a hello because they want that. And with concatenation, right? We've done it before. We're just gonna use pluses, right? With name plus with name plus, and we're gonna add an exclamation mark at the end because that's what they want. And when we press go, you'll see that's gonna show that is all correct, just like this. Do you have any questions on hello name? No. Okay. All right. Moving on to make Aba. Given two strings A and B, return the results, putting them together in order in A, B, B, A. So what they want us to do is they want to have A, right? We have A and B, and they want us to have A's on the beginning and end, and have the B's in the middle. So that's very simple. We're just gonna do a return again, right? And we're just gonna concatenation again. We're just gonna do A plus B plus B and plus A. And you'll see that'll show that it is. Do we have any questions on this? No? Okay. All right, moving on. Make tags, right? They just want us to use, they give us this, so they want us to use this as a tag, and they want us to surround the word. And again, that's pretty simple. We're just gonna write just like this, or we're just surrounding it like this, and plus word. So they want us to use these, right? And we have the tag and the ending. We have the word plus like this. And remember to use slash tag just like this. If you run our code, it shows that it is all correct. Our make out word given an out string length 4, and a word return a new string where the word is in the middle of a string. And then you give us an example like this. So we're using these first two and last two of out, right? And we're putting it inside a word. So what we do is we're going to do a return keyword again. And they give us the variable out, so we're going to put that. And using brackets, we do this, right? You have the indexes plus word plus and out again, because we're trying to use these. And you'll see that if we run our code, it's correct. Do we have any questions on this? No? All right, moving on. Extra end, right? Given a string, return a new string made of 3 copies of the last 2 chars of the original string. The string length will be at least 2. Okay. So what they want is they want 3 copies of the last 2. So just like this, they want 3 of these, 3 of these, and this is pretty simple, right? We're just gonna locate the last string like this, right? We have variable str, and we're gonna find the last 2 characters, doing it like this, right? And we're just gonna times it by 3. Very simple. If you run our code, it should be correct. Do you have any questions? No? All right, moving on. This is, I think, the same, but they just want the first 2, right? But giving the string, return a string made of 2 first 2 chars. So the string hello yields. Okay. But if it's shorter than length 2, return whatever there is. Okay. So this is, first we need to find if the length is shorter than 2. So how we would do that, we're going to use an if statement and find the length of the string by len, str, right? And we're going to see if this is greater than 2. If it is, we're going to return, right? We're going to return just like this. Okay. We're going to use an else, right? If it's not, then we're just going to return as it is. So if it's greater than 2, we're going to return the first 2. And if it's not, we're just going to return what it is. Just like this, we're going to press go, and it should be all correct. Do you have any questions on this? No? Okay, moving on. Given us string of even length, return the first half. Okay? So they give us examples. So like woohoo, we're just going to return woo. Hello there, we're going to return hello. And ABCDEF, we're just going to return ABC. So what we do is we're going to return keyword, str, and we're trying to get the beginning half, right? So just like last time, we're going to do starting colon, but we're going to use we're going to get the length of the string, right, or the variable. We're just going to divide it by 2. Okay, and when we run our code, it should be all correct. All right, we're just getting the beginning, the length, and we're dividing it by 2. Just like that, should work. Do you have any questions on this? All right, moving on. Okay, without and given a string, return a version without the first and last char. So hello yields L. The string length will be at least 2. Okay, this is pretty easy, right? We're just returning a version without the first and last. So we're just gonna use indexes, right? We're using 1 to -1. Remember the inclusives and non-inclusives, and if you run our code, it should look like this. Do we have any questions? No, we're moving on. Next one is combo string. Given 2 strings, A and B, return string from the short, long, short. Okay, so they just want the short, right, and the longer word, short, short, longer word. Okay, this looks doable. So we're gonna find which length is bigger, right? Because we want to find, this is the format they want, short, long, short. So we gotta find which one's the short and which one's the long. So we're gonna find the length of A first, right? And we're gonna compare it with length B. Okay, so if A is greater than B, we're gonna return B plus A plus B, right? But if it's not, we're just gonna do an else. We're gonna return A plus B plus A. Code, it should all be correct. Do you have any questions on this? No? Okay, moving on. Non-start. Given two strings, return the concatenation except omit their first char of string of each. The strings will. Okay. So they just want us to remove the first character, each variable, put them together. So we're just gonna return, right? We have A and B, just like this, plus B, just like that. Right? We're just removing the first go, and it should all be correct. Moving on with left 2, given a string, return a rotated left 2 version where the first 2 characters are moved to the end. So we're just like this, hello, we have HE moved to the end. For Java, we have JA moved to the end. So what we do is we're just going to return plus or just like this with brackets, and it should be correct. So we return, right? We're just moving the first 2 characters to the last. All right, and that seems to be all with string. Do you have any questions on string? If not, we can move on to logic 1. Okay, moving on to logic 1. All right, moving on to our party. When girls get together for party, they like to have cigars. Score party is successful when the number of cigars is between 40 and 60 inclusive. Okay, so you see that the number of cigars, and we're checking if it's weekend, right? And be successful if the number of cigars is between 40 and 60, right? If it's during the weekend. So see that we have 30, and it's not the weekend, then show up false. If it's 50, false, true, right? Because we have what they need. So what we do is we're gonna check first if it's weekend. So if is weekend equals to true, we're gonna return cigar 40 because there's no upper bound if it is the weekend, right? We have no upper bound if it's on the weekend. So we have else and return 40 cigars. Alright, we're just going in between the 40 and 60 inclusive. We'll see if we run our code, it should be all correct. Do you have any questions on this? Not. I'm gonna move on. Alright, day fashion. You and date are trying to get a tip at a restaurant. The primary you is the establishment. Results can coded with value of 0 equals no, 1 equals maybe, and 2 equals yes. Either is very stylish, 8 or more, and the result is 2 yes. Okay, so we're just going to find, we have you and the date, right? So we have you, and if we have it equal or less than to 2, or the date has it less than or equal to 2, then we're going to return 0, right? So we have a no, okay? If I have, right, if I'm greater than 8, or the date is greater or equal to 8, then we're going to return 2, right? So we have 0, 2, and with 1 maybe. And if none of these, we're just going to return 1. If you press go, it should all be correct. Do we have any questions? If not, I'm going to move on. Scroll play. Again, they play the temperatures between 60 and 90 inclusive. Unless it's summer, then the upper limit is 100 instead of 90. Okay. So first, we're going to say if it is summer, right? If is summer, right? We can do if summer is true, then we're going to return the temperature instead of 90, change it to 100. Okay. Just like this, right? And if it's not summer, we're just going to return 60. The upper limit is 90. So return. Let's do it like this then. Okay. Make sure to spell it correctly, right? If it's saying if it is summer, then the upper limit is going to be 100, and if it's not, the upper limit is going to be 90. The temperature is always going to start with 60. Do you have any questions? No? Alright, moving on to caught speeding. You're driving a little too fast. If a police officer stops you, write a code to compute the result. Code has an in value, 0 equals no ticket, 1 small ticket, and 2 is a big ticket. If you're speeding 60 or less, the result is 0. If the speed is between 61 and 80 inclusive, the result is 1. If it's 81 or higher, then result is 2. Unless it's your birthday, on that day your speed can be 5 higher in all cases.
Yeah. Can you go a little bit slower? Yeah, someone just messaged me to ask you that.
Okay. Alright. So first, we're gonna see if it's our birthday, right? It says unless on your birthday, your speed can be 5 higher in all cases, right? So we're gonna check if it's birthday, right? Our speed variable, it's gonna be plus 5, right? Because speed can be 5 higher. So what we do, or we can subtract itself by 5, okay? Just because they're asking your speed can be 5 higher, so we're gonna subtract by 5, okay? And we're gonna return with the 0, 1s, and 2s, 0 with no ticket, 1 with small ticket, and 2 with big ticket. If our speed is less or equal to 60, then we're gonna return 0. Okay, return 0. Okay. Just like they said, if speed is 60 or less, the result is 0. If speed is included between 61, so we have 61, right? Speed, then 80, right? If your speed is between 61 and 80 inclusive, so we're including 61 to 80, then we would return 1 as a small ticket. And else, our last result, we'll just return 2. I'll just do it like this. Just like this. Okay? So to recap, we're seeing if it's our birthday first, and if it is, our speed can be 5 higher. So we subtract itself by 5. If speed is less than 60, we'd return 0 as another ticket. If speed is included between 61 to 80, then we return 1, and our last else would be return 2. We see that it is all correct. Do we have any questions? If not, I'm going to move on. Store the sum given 2 ints, A and B. Return their sum. However, the sums in the range 10 to 19 inclusive are forbidden. So in that case, just return 20. Interesting. Okay. So we're gonna say if if 10 is less than or equal to, okay? Range. We're gonna say if 10 is less than or equal to A plus B, and that's less than 20, yeah, we're gonna return 20, right? So what I just did is we're finding the sums, right? The sums is included inside the range 10 to, or we can just do this, we can do equal to 19, right? We're including 10 to 19, we're returning 20. And if that's not the case, we're just gonna be returning A plus B. We'll run our code, it should all be correct. Do we have any other questions or any questions? No, we're gonna move on. Alarm clock given a day of the week encoded as 0 equals Sunday, 1 Monday, 2, etc., and 6 Saturday. And a boolean indicated that we are on vacation, so we have 1 for day and we have 1 for vacation. Return a string of the form 7 o'clock, indicating when the alarm clock should ring. Weekdays, the alarm should be 7 o'clock, and on the weekend, it should be 10. unless we're on vacation, then on weekends it should be 10, and weekends it should be off. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So what they're asking is for on the weekends, the alarm clock should ring at 7, and on the weekend it should be at 10, unless they're on vacation. Then we're switching it to weekdays to 10, and weekends it should be. Okay. So how we do that? We're gonna check if we can check if we're not on vacation. So we do that. If we're not on vacation, and if, right, now we're going to be including the days. So we have 1 as Monday, right, because we'll be talking about the weekdays. We have 1, and we're going to include day, to 5, which is Friday. We're going to return 7, right, because we're not on vacation, and if it's a weekday, we're going to be returning 7 o'clock. Okay. And what if it is the weekend, right? Then we're just going to be returning 10 o'clock. Yeah. So that's when we're not on vacation. So what if we are, right? Then we're just going to do if we have Monday again. Right? If it's the weekday, we're going to return 10 o'clock, right? Because we're on vacation. And then we're going to return off as an else if it's on a weekend. So if you run our code, it should show up as all correct. Do we have any questions on this code? If not, I'm going to move on. Okay. Love 6. The number 6 is truly a great number. Given 2 int values, A and B, return true if either one is 6, or there's sum or difference, right? Addition or subtraction is 6. Note that the function absolute number computes the absolute value. So they want us to use the absolute value. Okay. So we're going to be returning true if A or B is 6. So we can first do that by saying return A equal to 6, or B is equal to 6. Now we're trying to find the sum or difference is equal to 6. So what we do is just add another or. We can have A plus B, right? And if that's equal to 6, or if the absolute value of A minus B, then be 6. So we're going to find if A or B is 6, or if the sum or difference is 6. We're going to run our code, and it show up as all correct. Do we have any questions on this problem? Right, we're just finding if A or B is 6, or if the sum or difference is 6. Right, moving on. Logic 1 in 1 to 10. Given a number n, return true. Return true if n is in the range 1 to 10 inclusive, unless outside mode is true, in which case return true if the number is less or equal to 1 or greater or equal to 10. So if then n is in the range 1 to 10, unless outside mode is true, in which case return true. Okay, so first we're going to see if it's not outside mode. So by doing that, we just do type if not. outside mode. Right, if it's not in outside mode, we're gonna return. So we have the variable n in range to 111. 11 is not inclusive, so we'd be 1 through 10. Right? And else we return n, 1, or n is greater than 10, greater or equal to 10. Okay? So if not outside mode, we're going to return the range, right? Show up as true, just like this. Okay. Do we have any questions on this problem? Alright, moving on. Near 10, given a non-negative number none, return true if num is within 2 of a multiple of 10. No, a modulo b is the remainder of dividing a by b. Okay, so it's going to say true if the num is within 2 of a multiple 10. Okay. Given a non-negative number num, return true if num is within 2. Okay. Okay, so what we do here is we return, and we have a variable num, right? And we're gonna see if it's a multiple of 10. Okay? And how do you know if it's a multiple of 10? Right? We have 0, 1, 2, 8, 9, and 10. Right? Within 2 of a multiple of 10. We run our code, it should show up as correct. Alright. We're gonna move on to our, I think it is list 1. Okay. So given array of ints, return true if 6 appears as the first or last element in the array. Okay. So we're gonna show true if the first or last element is true. So we have 6 as the first element, we have true, but we see in this array that none of them have 6, so we show up as false. So to this, we're gonna check if the index, right? You have index of nums, the nums of array, 0, right? Because it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. It starts with 0, and we're checking if that's 6, or if, right, the opposite, nums, -1, 6, just like that. So we do nums and array of -1 to find the last element, right? And we do index 0 to find the first element. And we're returning 6, and it show up as true. Do you have any questions on the first question on this? No, we're gonna move on. Same first last. Given an array of ints, return true if the array is linked 1 or more, and the first element and the last element are equal. So return true if the array is linked 1 or more, and the first and the last element are equal. So you see that these are all, the length is 1 or more, right? but we have to see that the first and last elements are also equal. So we see this is false, but we see the second and third array that they both have 1, right, on the first and last element, and that's why it shows up as true. Okay. So first, we're going to return, right? But we said that the length has to be more than 1. To do that, we find the length of nums, okay? And it has to be greater than 1, and nums 0 has to be the same as nums of the last element. Okay, so very similar to last question. See, we have num0, which would be the first element, and nums -1, which be the last elements. And if they're equal, and the length of the array is more than 1, it should show up as all correct. Do we have any questions? No, we're going to move on. Okay, make pi, return an int array, length 3, contain the first 3 digits of pi. We have 3, 1, 4. Okay, so we're just making an int array. So what we do is we're going to return, and to make one, we always use brackets, right? So we have brackets, and when pi starts with 3.14, they just want us to use the 3 digits, right? To be return 3, 1, and 4 with the ending bracket. It should all be correct. Very simple. Do you have any questions on this? No, I'm going to move on. Common end given 2 arrays of ints, A and B, return true if they have the same first element, or they have the same last element. Both arrays will be length 1 or more. So we have 2 arrays, right? And we see that this is true because the last elements are the same. These are false because none of these are the same, right? And this is true because the first elements of both arrays are true. Okay. To do this, we'll be returning if the array A, we're going to be comparing array A and B. So we have A and B. So we'll be returning, right? We have A, 0. So this is the first index of A. And we're going to see if it's equal to the first index of B. Or the last index of A is equal to the last index of B. If we run our code, it should be all correct. Any questions on this? No? Okay, we're going to move on. Give an array of ints, length 3, return the sum of all the elements. So we have, right, 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, 5 plus 11 plus 2 is 18, so on, 7 plus 0 is 7. So this is actually very simple, right? They're asking us just to return nums 0 plus nums 1 and nums of 2, right? Because we start with 0, 1's 2, and they only have an int length of 3. So if we ran this code, it'd be correct, but we can also simplify it. Okay, we can also simplify it with returning the sum of nums. We just use the keyword sum, and it should be the same. So whether you use this or this, it should be the same, but this is just a simplified version. Do we have any questions on this? If not, we're going to move on. All right, rotate left 3. Okay, so we're just, okay. I see what we're doing. Return array with the elements rotated left. So 1, 2, 3 would be 2, 3, 1. So they just rotate left. Okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, but we see that 2 goes left, 3 goes left, and 1 moves all the way to the back. Same for here. 11 moves left, 9 left, 5 to the back. Okay? So we're just switching these order around. So we're just going to be returning a new array. And to do that, we start with brackets with arrays, and we use our nums, right? We're going to switch with nums. 1 goes first, right? Because we have 0, 1. And 1 is going to move left to be the 0. So we have nums 1, nums 2, and nums 0. And we end it with the ending bracket. Okay? So we run our code and it should be correct. So to recap, we're just moving these to the left. So we start with 1, 2, and the 0 goes all the way to the end. Do we have any questions? If not, we're gonna move on. So this is very similar to the left, but we're just gonna be reversing the order. So 1, 2, 3 would be 3, 2, 1. 5, 11, 9 would be 9, 11, 5, and so on. So we see last time we returned a new array just like this, but instead of switching it to the left, we just start with the end and like this. And if you run our code, you should show as correct. So very similar problems. Do you guys have any questions? Alright, if not, we're going to move on. Max n3, given an array of ints length 3, figure out which one is larger, the first or last. And set all the other elements to be that value. Okay. So we have the first and last element, and we see for this array that 3 is larger, right? So we're setting all the elements to be 3. For the example, we have 11 is the largest. We switch it all to 11. For this one, we also have that 11 is the largest, but because it's not the first or last element, we're not going to change it, right? And first and last, we have 3 is the largest, so it changes all to 3. Yeah. So to do this, we have m, our variable. We're going to be making a variable m. And that's going to be the max value, okay? And we're going to be finding the max value of nums 0 and nums 2, okay? And we're going to be returning the m, okay, as an array. So just like this, if you run our code, it should be all correct. To recap, right, we make a variable m, find the max of nums 0 or nums 2, or the first or last element, and we're going to be returning the max. Do we have any questions on this? If not, we're going to be moving on to given an array of ints, return the sum of the first 2 elements of the array. If the array's length is less than 2, just sum of the elements that exist, returning 0. The array is length 0. So we're returning the sum of the first 2, okay? Okay, this is pretty easy. So first we're going to see if the array is length 0. Okay? Right? So we're going to find the length of nums. And if that's equal to 0, we're going to be returning 0, right? Returning 0 if the array is linked 0. If length of nums is equal to 1, we're going to be returning it only has one, right? One element, so we're just going to be returning that one element. Okay? So we'll be returning num0. And lastly, we should have more than 2 or more. We're just going to be returning nums, the first 2 elements, just like this. Any questions on this? Right? If the length of nums is 0, then we're going to return 0. If the length of nums is 1, we're just going to return that only length. And if it's whatever else, we're just going to be returning we're just adding the first 2 elements. Okay, moving on, make ends. Given 2 int arrays A and B, each length 3, return a new array length 2 containing their middle elements. Return new containing their middle elements. Okay, so we see we have 2 int arrays A, B, and the middle is 2 and 5. So we made a new array of 2 and 5. We see we have 7, 8. So we have a new array of 7 and 8, and we have 2, 4. We have 2, 4. So what we do, very simply, we're going to be returning, right? And we make a new variable with brackets, the middle of 1 and the middle of B. Very simple, right? And we just make a new array and press go. It should show up as this. Do we have any questions so far? If not, we're going to move on to make ends. Okay, given an array of ints, return a new array length 2 containing the first and last elements. Okay, for this, we're just going to be, right? This is very simple also. It's very similar to what we did last time, but we have one array and we're just making a new array of the first and last element. And to do that, we're going to return, make a new array. We have nums, and we have the first element. And we're going to take nums and take the last element, and we're going to make that into a new array. Just like this, it should be all correct. All right, moving on. Given an int array length 2, return true if it contains 2 or 3. Okay, very simple. Return if we have 2 in nums or 3 in nums. If it is going to show true, if that was going to show false. Do we have any questions? All right, 2 in nums or 3 in nums. We're going to return true. Okay. All right, that should be all. And I think I'll pass it back to Sean.
Thank you, Elliot. I will be taking over now. So first, before I share my screen, do you guys have any questions about what you guys just learned? Or did the problems? I'm assuming no. I'm gonna actually start sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see it. And let's start with count evens. So, the problem says return the number of even ints in a given array. Note the modulus mod operator computes the remainder. Example 5 mod 2 is 1. So, what do we do? What do you think we have to do? We're going to actually have to use a for loop for x in And since we know the list is called nums, we just say for x and nums, because x will now hold each and every index within nums, and we check. We're actually going to make a variable called ans, which is the answer was 0. And then in here, if x mod 2. Basically, we're checking if the number is divisible by 2 is equal to 0, which means that the number is even. We add 1 to ans. And at the end, what we're going to have to do is just return ans. What? I'm not allowed to do that. Ah, I see. Yeah. Remember, guys, indentation is important. If you see here, if I do this, I get an error. However, if I stay within it, I don't get an error and everything should be just fine. I'm actually going to go to the next problem. I hope whoever's taking live just took a screenshot. Let's look at this question. Given an array length, one or more ints, return the difference between the largest and smallest values in the array. So we're going to use the math functions min and max, actually. So what do? We're going to make a variable called max minimum equals 0 and minimum, which is going to equal the biggest value it can be. And for x in nums, x being the numbers, if actually before I do this one, I want to explain the math functions. So the built-in math functions have min and max. So basically, if you put in the numbers and within the parentheses, x will become the minimum since it's min, and y will become the maximum. An absolute value just returns a positive, and this power is just 4 to the power of 3. Yeah, okay. That's a very simple explanation. I feel like that's all we really need to know. So I'm just going to say minimum minimum is equal to minimum. That way we'll get like the what is it called? The values that are for the max and min, and then we're gonna have to return maximum minus minimum. Minimum is not defined. I spelled incorrectly. Yes, and it should work. Any questions? Oh, yes. There's a different method that my teacher just showed me. Was it? No, no. So what you can do is instead of what I did, which is much longer, you can just write return max nums minus min nums, because what needs to be in the between those parentheses is a list of numbers. That's why I made the list maximum and x. However, you can just put the entire list in there and it should still work perfectly fine. Next one. Oh, before. Any questions? Okay, no questions. I will be moving on. My finger. Return the centered average of an array of int, which we'll say is the mean average of the values, except ignoring the largest and smallest values in the array. If there are multiple copies of the smallest value, ignore just one copy, and likewise for the largest value. Use int division to produce the final average. You may assume that the array is length 3 or more. So basically, what do we do here? We're given a list. And what we do is we ignore the smallest value, the smallest number, and the biggest number. When we do ignore them, if there's more than one, we just ignore it once. So what we'll do is maximum is equal to max nums, and minimum will equal min nums. However, what we want to do is we want to only count it once. So I'm going to make this thing called MC. Min count equal to 0, and max count equal to 0. So what these are is that since we can only use maximum and minimum once, I'm just going to use that to check, and we're going to make this thing called sum. Sum equals to 0 for x and nums, because x will represent each thing. If min count is basically equal to 0, and being there's an additional true and false condition, and x equal minimum, continue, which means just move on. And we're actually going to do the same thing again, but instead of min count, what we're going to do is that we're going to do it for max count, being the maximum. Continue. If not any of this, then sum equals sum plus x. And then since we have to return the average, it's going to be return x divided by num dot len nums minus 2. Give me a second, please. Wait, why is that wrong? Give me a second. Sorry, guys. Ah, I forgot. You gotta add. And you're gonna have to do the same thing for this one, but instead it's max count. Make sure you guys remember that. Even then, it's still not working. Why is that? Give me a second, guys. Sorry. Apparently I misunderstood the question. Let me just read this really quick again. Sorry, guys. Actually, I'm going to use the other method here. We present here. So what this sum function does is just adds everything up. So you do literally the same thing, like you add everything up. Then you find the minimum, maximum, subtract those minimum and maximum from the sum, and then you just divide by the number of nums with numbers within nums, and you subtract 2 since we're ignoring the 2. And that should be fine. Next one. Before I move on, any questions? No. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Next question. Return the sum of the numbers in the array, returning 0 for an empty array. Except the number 13 is very unlucky, so it does not count, and the numbers that come immediately after the 13 also do not count. So we're going to make a sum, right? Sum equal num. Sum equal 0. Yes. And what we're going to do is going to for x in nums. What we're going to do is we're going to make a thing called 13. Basically, this will check if the previous number was 13. And we're going to keep it at false. So if x equal 13, 13 will equal true, and continue since you don't want it to add. And if 13 is equal, you can just write if 13 because it's a boolean, so you need to write equal true because that's also a boolean thing. So it'd be redundant. Make 13 false because we want to make sure we keep on doing it, and then continue. And then we just sum is equal to sum plus x. And if you return, you should be able to return sum. Yeah. Any questions? I'll explain this a bit clearer. So we have a sum variable, which adds everything up, and 13. We'll check if the number right before it was 13. So we go in, we check if x is equal to 13, make the 13 variable true, and then continue. Next time, if 13 is true, make 13 false, and then continue because you don't want to add it. If both of them are false, then just add x to sum, and you just return sum at the end. Voila. Any questions? I'm assuming not. I will move on. Give me a second. Okay. Return the sum of the numbers in the array, except ignore sections of numbers starting with 6 and extending to the next 7. Every 6 will be followed by at least 7. Return 0 for no numbers. So basically, there's going to be a list of numbers, right? But if you find a 6, don't start adding the numbers from beyond that, because after that there will be a 7, and you just don't want to add until 7. So yet again, make a sum variable, and we're gonna make a 6 variable equal to false, because we're gonna check if we find 6. So what we're gonna do is for x in nums, if x equal 6, 6 is equal to true, and then we want to continue. If x equals 7, 6 equals false, you still continue, and then we make another condition that checks if 6 is true. Just continue because we want to add any numbers between 6 and 7. If all three of these are false, then sum is equal to sum plus x. It looks a bit complicated, but it's actually not that much. I'll explain it actually. Turn sum. Seems like something did not work. And 6. Because we gotta check if 6 is true or not. Because you can add 7, but you can't add 7 if there was a 6 in front of it. So basically, what does this do? I have a sum variable that measures the sum, and then I have the 6, which checks if the number 6 has appeared. So we go into the for loop. If x is equal to 6, then we make the variable 6, that's true or false, equal true, because we have encountered a 6. And then the what is it called? The next if, we check if x equal to 7 and this variable 6 is true, because we have to ignore everything between 6 and 7. However, if x is equal to 7 and 6 didn't appear before it, then it doesn't matter. So you just write x equals 7 and 6, then 6 is equal to false, and you don't add that 7. And if 6 is just true and neither of these are true, just continue because you don't add. If all of them are false, you add x to sum and you return sum. Any questions? No, okay. Okay, last problem in list 2. Has 22. Given an array of ints, return true if the array contains a 2 next to a 2 somewhere. Basically, we have to find a 2, and next to it, there has to be a 2. So, we're just going to write, I'm going to make a variable called 2 equals false. And what we're going to do is for x in nums, if x equal 2, 2 equals true. But before that, what we're going to do is if x equal 2, it's the same thing, but we're going to write and 2 return true. And we're at the end, we're going to write return false. And we're going to add that additional statement to overcorrect. So let me explain. So I made a variable called 2 that checks if the number I just looked at is 2. So I check if if the number is 2 and the variable that I called 2, that which checks if the variables before was 2, if both of them are true, then return true. However, that might not be the case because this might be the first number, right? So if x is equal to 2, then make it true. Then make the variable 2 true. However, let's say it's not 2. Then I want to make 2 equal false. So this doesn't occur. And if all of this happens, and we never return true, then just return false. And that was list 2. Let's see. Oh, I didn't see this. Big diff. There is a question to go over big diff. So basically, big diff here is the fact that at maximum, we're going to read the question again. We just give the difference between the biggest number in the variable and the smallest. I had my method, but it's very long and it's kind of complicated. But there's a better method. What we do is just we simply do max nums minus the min nums, because max and min are math functions. And since we just put a list between those two, we find the maximum of nums and the minimum of nums, and we return the difference. Okay. I hope that was a bit clearer. Let's move on to string 2. Given a string, return a string where for every character in the original there are 2 characters. Basically, what we want to do is in the string, we want to add the same thing, same letter again and again. So how we're going to do this is n. I'm just going to write n for new, for x in rate in str, n is equal to n plus x. Return. Yeah, so what this is basically doing, I made a variable n, which is going to be string, and then x will be every character in str, and then I just add x 2 times to n to get there. Any questions? Question? Count time. Return the number of times the string hi appears anywhere in the given string. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a variable called hi, and I'm going to make it false. And I'm going to make a count variable and make it equal to 0. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to make an h variable. I'll show you why. For x in str, if x equal h, h is equal to true if h and x equal I, cnt equals cnt plus 1. And we're just going to do that over and over again to check how many times hi comes out. Yeah, so basically what I did is I made a variable that checks where h is, and then a count variable that counts how many times hi comes out. So if x is equal to h, then I make h true because I found h. And then what do I check? I check if h is equal to true, and x is equal to I, then cnt plus 1. And just to be safe, we can do this, because if it doesn't equal h, we can just make it false. And you can't do that, actually. Don't do that, because it'll make it false before that happens. So yeah. Any questions? Okay. Return true if the string cat and dog appear the same number of times in the string. So what do we do? All right. Dog equals 0, and cat equals 0. That'll these two variables are going to count how many times dog and cat come out. So what are we going to do? How do we want to do this? Oh, so what? I didn't know this personally, but what you can do is str.count, str being the name of the variable, count cat, and then you do the same thing for dog. I accidentally switched the order around. And then we just check, return dog equal cat. These are the same. So what this basically does is count is it's going to go into the string variable, and then it's going to be like, how many times does this thing I put into the parentheses going to come out? And then it counts it, and then I'm just going to compare those two, and we're going to get a true or false value. And voila. Any questions? No? Okay. I'm moving on to the next one. I just heard something. Do we have a question? No, we do not. Okay. Return the number of times that the string code appears anywhere in the given string, except we'll accept any letter for D. So cope and co also count. So we can't do the str.count method anymore, can we? So what are we gonna do actually? Let's see. A method we can use is give me a second, guys. I actually need to check something real quick to see if it works. And I kind of don't want to give you guys wrong information right before I start. So I'm actually, give me a second, guys. It's not gonna take that long. It's gonna give me like maybe 10 seconds. Hey guys, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I had the right thing before I give you guys any information because I don't want to give false information. So, can you guys see my screen? I hope you can. Okay. Seems like I can. So, what we're gonna do actually is the following. First, we're gonna make a for loop for count. Think. Yeah, we're just gonna make a count variable, and then we're gonna do for x in uh, str, because what we want to do is we want to parse through the variable and actually get the thing we need. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look for C O and then skip one and then E. So say alright, code true if code basically if x equal C, code equals, I'm gonna make this false actually. False, make it true. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing. If x equal O and code, basically if code is true, we're gonna we're just gonna keep code true. We're just gonna press continue, else code equals false. And code has to be false here because if it was a C before and it's a C again, it will be true, but it's not what we need. So and then we check if code, because we gotta check if code is true. If code is true, continue. Mine's kind of long, so there must be an easier way. If code is equal to true, and x equal e, count is equal to count plus 1. This is a very long, windy method of doing it. I can't really think of a better method at the moment. Sorry, guys. So we're just gonna have to continue every time. Invalid line 6. Huh, interesting. I see. Huh, interesting. Why am I getting that? Give me a second, guys. Invalid syntax. Why? I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That didn't work. That's not very nice. That's funny. Okay. I hate myself. Sure. Oh, okay. There is an easier way, guys. I kind of forgot about this method. Sorry. Python isn't my main thing, so I tend to make a lot of mistakes. I'm very sorry about that. So what you can do is you can do for I in range, because you can get like a range of numbers, remember? So for I in range length of str minus 3, because we don't want to go over the length of str, we're actually going to get I equal, we're going to make temporary a list that holds the string values of at I through three more letters. And if the first two letters, basically if temp is O2 equal to CO, and temp at the last one, therefore hence the -1 is equal to E, then you add 1 to count. However, not. Just move on. This should work, yeah. Sorry guys. And given two strings. Actually, before I move on, any questions? This is yes. You can use substring, guys. I forgot about that existed. Sorry. Next, and other. Given string, return true if either of the strings appear at the end of the other string. Ignoring uppercase and that thing should not matter. So we want to make everything into lowercase. So what we're going to do is A dot lower and B dot lower. We're going to make everything lowercase. And then we basically check if A dot negative len B is equal to B, turn true, and then we do the same thing again, but instead of A, we do B. And at the end, we just add a return false. That should work. You will get an out of range thing, so I suggest you be careful. So basically, what we want to do is if len B is smaller than len A, we want to check that first. And we're actually going to check the same thing here. However, the reverse to make sure. I do not know why that gives a false. Uh, okay, it gives false for almost everything, which it should not. So what we need to check is here. I see my error, kind of. If len. Okay, that existed. You can just do if return S1 that ends with S2, which is just the same thing. It's like this. You'll get false for some of them. So what we want to do is we're gonna make the same thing but with B. But I'm gonna show you why this will not work right now. If we do that, it doesn't work because what happens here is basically this is gonna give you either a true or false value, and it doesn't care about like the capitalization. That's the capitalization doesn't matter for this. But if you see here, it only checks if B ends with A and it doesn't check the other way around. So we need to make sure it does do that. So we're gonna write if A len A is greater than len B, we want to do this. And then we're not gonna write an else since return will just take care of it. That's very annoying. It seems the capitalization does matter, so we're just gonna do that. Like that, and it should work then, yes. Sorry for the very roundabout explanation. Or what you can do is return Or you can just put an or in the return statement, which works as well. And like that, and it should give you the same result. Return true if the given string contains the appearance of x, y, and z. X, y, and z is not directly preceded by a period. So basically, you can have anything as long as x, y, z is there, good. But if the period is also right in front of it, that's not good. So what we can do is return. What's it? Yeah, that. I'm gonna say count is str dot count x, y, z, and we're gonna return true. I'm just gonna do one thing first. True. I'm not gonna check for the period thing. I'm just gonna do the count thing first before we do anything. And now we see this works, right? But now we also have to check if the period is in front of it, right? So basically, is there a question? Oh, okay. I'm going a bit fast. Sorry. Is there a specific question you want me to go over, Bryson? Okay, yeah, I'll just slow down this one. So this one, I didn't check for the period condition yet. So what I did was if CNT is equal to STR, CNT is STR that count the XYZ. Basically, I'm counting how many times XYZ appears. And if CNT is bigger than 0, return true, else return false. However, we see we don't get everything. Why is that? Because we didn't check for the condition where there's a plus, basically. So instead of doing this time, we're gonna use what we did before. Basically, we're gonna do the substring. And give me a second. X in range of len of str minus 3. And we're gonna make a temporary string that's str at I to I plus 4. And from there, if str at if temp at 0 is equal to period continue. Else elif temp at 1 to 4 equal to xyz, return true, and at the end return false. Shit. Invalid syntax at line 5. Seems. Oh, I forgot that. Got it here. I did not mean to put I meant to put X. Yeah, it mostly works except for this. Because if we see here, it doesn't actually like count that because we see here that the last 3 are not actually XYZ. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna check the same thing again, like this 0 to 3. Yeah. If we see here, it does return false here as well, even though it shouldn't. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna actually add x plus 3 and then continue here, and then it still doesn't work. I'm sorry, guys. I do not know why this one isn't working that well. It seems it's almost done, but we're gonna use this method actually. So if len is less than 3, obviously it cannot hold xyz, so we return false. If if it perfectly works, then return true. However, we gotta check if it doesn't work or not. So what we do is literally we get the first 3. We get 3 letters, and we also get a single letter right before it, and then we check if C is not 1 and temp, which is holding 3 letters, is XYZ, return true, however, return false. And then it should be correct. Any questions? Uh, okay, guys, we do have 5 minutes remaining. So before we leave, I do want to do warm up. Which warm up do we have? So we're gonna do some warm up problems, namely sleep. We're gonna do one actually, and then because we don't have much time. There's a question. Any questions? Yeah. I want you guys to ask questions, guys. It is very important. Yeah. What she said is very true. Coding band is not a very easy thing. So it should be like if you guys don't have any questions, that's pretty good. Okay. So I guess we don't have any questions. Then I'm actually gonna go over a few warm-up problems. It says here. The parameter weekday is true if it is a weekday, and the parameter vacation is true if we are on vacation. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. Return true if we sleep in. So basically, we return true if weekday is false and vacation is true. So if not not weekday or vacation, return true. Else, return false. I cannot spell for my life. There we go. Yeah, that's it for this one. Next problem. Any questions on that one, guys? Okay, next problem. So we have two monkeys, A and B, right? And we are given the parameters A smile and B smile, which show if the monkeys are smiling or not. Basically, we are in trouble if they are both smiling or neither of them is smiling. Return true if we are in trouble. I'm going to show you guys the complicated way, then I'm going to show you the simple way. So, we basically, the complicated way is if A smile and B smile, basically if both of them are true, return true. If not A smile and not B smile, return true. Else return false. That'll get the job done. However, there's a simpler way. We can do it in one if. What we know is that both of them have to be smiling, or both of them have to be not smiling, right? That means if A smile is the same as B smile, we return true. So we change the and into an equal, and it still works. Last question, guys, before we dismiss you guys. Given two int values, return their sum. Unless the two values are the same, then return double their sum. So basically it's saying, you're given two numbers. Give the sum. If they're the same number, then return 2 times that sum. So basically, we gotta check if A equal B. We gotta check if they're the same, right? We return 2 times A plus B. These parentheses are important because it shows that you do A and B first. Else, you just return A plus B. And if you do it, why is that indented off? Okay, here we go. Yeah, and that's some level. And okay, uh, that is actually going to be it for today. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions whatsoever about today and such? Okay, guys, if you don't have any questions, I will. You guys, we will see you tomorrow, and I'm hoping you guys do your homework, which is going to be in the homework channel. Okay, then. Thank you everybody for listening, and have a wonderful day. You guys are free to leave.